Welcome back to my little channel. Today I'm going to make a response video based on a discussion I was having with someone on Vines. Now I'm not going to tell you with whom because I don't want you to berate the poor guy, and I shouldn't call him a poor guy either. I mean, we just disagreed. I don't think he's an idiot, and I don't think he should be, I don't know, abused for his opinion. I don't want to. But one thing he did do is he gave me the link to an article, 100 facts you probably didn't know about race realism. It's not really called a fact about race realism, it's 100 facts for differences between human races. And I felt I made a little response video to it. Now there are 100 facts, so it's not going to be just the one video, but I'm going to start with this one. And as usually, one starts at the beginning. So let's start with the article. I won't read it all out for you because I will have it screenshotted and whatnot. And the link obviously will be downstairs. In this article are 100 facts, the vast majority of which can easily be verified in any set of encyclopedias, almanacs, psychological texts, and other reference material commonly found in any public library. Now, basically what they're saying is, what we're just going to tell you is true, and you can find out why we say it is true. Fair enough. Cleverly hidden within these 100 facts for added incentive to read onward is one lie. Not a lie of statistical or grammatical error, but a ludicrous falsehood. Now this is especially funny to put in, because there are plenty of things in this list that are probably not correct, to use the friendly terms. But by saying this, if someone would read something and they would find something that they know isn't true, but they don't know if the other things aren't true, then they would say, okay, well, this is the one thing that wasn't true, but hey, you know, the rest could still be true. Then they say, I sincerely pledge that my motivations are not of insult or hatred, but of the deepest love for mankind and the trust concern for its future generations. My purpose is not to deceive, but to enlighten. And I hope this work will help you reflect and re-examine your views on race. This is basically saying, I don't want to be rude to anyone. And I'm willing to believe that the writer of this did not want to be rude. Problem is, biologically speaking, every human alive is of the race Homo sapiens sapiens. There is no Homo sapiens Africanus. There is no Homo sapiens Asian. There is no Homo sapiens Americanus. There is just Homo sapiens sapiens. But there are differences between the ethnicities. That's why we have the word ethnicity. So a black African is still Homo sapiens sapiens, but his ethnicity is African. A black American is still Homo sapiens sapiens, but his ethnicity, again, is African. I'm sorry, there is no black American ethnicity. Now, culturally, they are very different, obviously, but this is because culture is more important than ethnicity. This is something I would really like to push, and I really need to put some thought behind making a good video explaining this, because culture defines a person more than his ethnicity. Culture defines a society more than the ethnicity of the society. Now, I know there are people out there that will say, yeah, but people shape culture, and you'd be correct. But by assuming that it's a one-way street, you do not understand what culture is. Anyway, this is a whole completely different story. I'm going to continue with this one. So basically they're going to tell you about Senator Bilbo. To stop myself from saying Baggins. But okay, Senator Bilbo was a senator from Mississippi in 1947, and basically he said, white people can rebuild a society, black people cannot. I'm not really sure about that, so I'm not really going to go into that. I think every society has it in itself to rebuild itself. Anyway, let's start with the facts. And let's start with fact number 1. The white race has crossed seas, harnessed rivers, carved mountains, tamed deserts, and colonized the most barren ice fields. It has been responsible for the invention of the printing press, cement, the harnessing of electricity, flight, rocketry, astronomy, the telescope, space travel, firearms, the transistor, radio, television, the telephone, and I'm not going to read the rest. And here is my first problem with this text. Define white race. Or white ethnicity, which would be a better word, fair is fair. So who all falls under the white ethnic they are talking about? Now I want to ask you this because it's very important. Apparently all these things are done by the white race or white ethnicity. And I'm not going to deny that people from Western culture have done all these things. But has it only been done by white people? Well, for that to be sure, we need to know what white means. I mean, is someone from the Middle East white? Well, I would say no. I don't know why I would say no, but let's, for the sake of argument, say if you're from the Middle East, you're not white. Well, but we do know that the Middle East, especially around the year 1000, had a lot to do about astronomy, naming of the constellations and all that. And when it comes to crossing seas, I'd say all cultures eventually crossed seas. Yeah, but the white race was first. Okay, no, again, there is no white race. Certain Germanic tribes crossed the sea, I will grant you that. But before that, we already had people in Polynesia crossing the sea. Are they white too? See, this is the problem. If we're going to pretend that all these things are only done by one group, then not only are we denying the fact that other groups did this too, but we also open the door for saying, yeah, this is crap. Now all these names they mention, I mean, its member includes such great names as Socrates and Aristotle and Plato and Homer and Tacitus and Julius Caesar and Napoleon and William the Conqueror, etc., etc. This is correct. All these people are part of our Western heritage. At the time, they wouldn't call themselves Western, though. I mean, fair enough. And I admit that they put Hitler into the list, but I have to admit that Hitler does belong in the list. I mean, he might be a vile human being, and I'm definitely not on board with the Nazi concept. I mean, socialism is socialism, whether you call it Nazi or anything else. I'm not a fan of socialism, but he was an important person in our history. Thank God he was an idiot, or we would be all speaking German now. Beside the point, Pasteur, Leeuwenhoek, Mendel, great names, Darwin, Newton. But as Newton said, I am where I am today because I stood on the shoulder of giants. Now, what kind of giants did he mean? Well, people like Galileo, which is, funny enough, also in the list. But is Galileo white? I mean, I think he was Hispanic. Well, Latin, anyway. So, is Latin now also white? See, this is the problem. Are any of these people not achievers? Hell yes. And they are definitely shapers of what in event became Western society. So yes, these are the great names from history. But are they all white? Now I would argue, no, they are not. But yeah, that's an argument. That's the thing. If you give in a title or a term like white race, and you do not define what it is, then yeah, that's the end of it. So fact number one isn't really a fact because it doesn't confine itself. Homer was of a very different ethnicity than Hitler, but they are in the same list. Are they great names from history? Yes. Galileo? Yes. Darwin? Yes. Different ethnicities? Yes. So are they all the white race? Anyway, so this is the first thing that I already saw in this list, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't a fact. It's an assumption without clarifying what you're trying to assume. But let's continue. Fact number 2. Throughout 6,000 years of recorded history, the black African Negro has invented nothing. Not a written language, weaved cloth, a calendar, a plough, a road, a bridge, a railway, a ship, a system of measurement, or even the wheel. Well, that's not really true though, is it? They might not have invented all of these things, but to say they haven't done anything, they had written language. Just the fact that they had a written language basically says this fact number 2 is false. But here comes the kicker. Note, this is in reference to the pure-blooded Negro. So when I'm saying, well, in Africa they had a written language, then they can basically say, yeah, but he wasn't a true Negro. Some of you will recognize this as the true Scotsman fallacy. Or, for this example, the true Negro fallacy. They had culture, they had language, they had weaponry, they had certain inventions. Were they 6,000 years ago as far as we were 2,000 years ago? No, obviously not. There's 4,000 years between them. But to say that they had nothing is also unfair. So, fact number 2 can also be dismissed as being false. But at the same time, we can't really dismiss it because, well, I can say that black people had languages and written language, for example, in Ethiopia, but then they could say, yeah, but they weren't pure-blooded Negroes. They were mixed with Arab or whatever. I don't think they were, but by saying pure-blooded Negro, you are creating, as I said, the no true Negro fallacy. So this fact cannot be disproven, but in all fairness, it can't be proven either. His only known means of transporting goods was on the top of his hard, furry head. No, we know this is not true. But anyway, so these are the 2 starting facts, and then we have a story about the intelligence. The average IQ of an American Negro is from roughly 15 to 20 points below those of American whites. Fair enough. This is something Charles Murray pointed out in his bell curve. But what a lot of people kind of misunderstood from the bell curve was not that this is a fact on its own. This is a result of testing, and we need to figure out how come. What causes the American Negroes to score 15 to 20 points on average below those of white Americans? Now we know that IQ tests are very heavily influenced by cultures. For example, if you're Dutch and you speak English well, you'd still not score as high on an English-based IQ test as you would on a Dutch-based IQ test, because culture is part of the test. But we also see in America that, on average, black people live in a slightly different culture than white people. White people live in a slightly different culture than other white people in other parts of the country. So these are things we need to look into. These are things that need to be addressed. Now Murray opened the door in trying to get these things addressed, to look into it. But unfortunately, the left started shouting racist, therefore no tests and no research was really done. And a few years ago, the right started saying, haha, see, Murray already knew this, therefore it is now fact. Well, you're partly correct. It is fact. But we don't know why it is fact. So to say Negroes are stupid, therefore they are 15 points lower, no, that's not the fact that it's showing. What we see is that on average, American Negroes score lower. But we do not know why. It's not because they're stupid. That's an easy out. If this is true, then it should be easily proven. But it's never been proven because no one looks into it. The left never looked into it because racism. The right doesn't look into it because the narrative fits fine. As long as I can say they're stupid because their IQ is lower, I don't have to know why their IQ is lower. And we know that there are cultural influences within the black society in America. Black people pulling each other back, pulling each other down. I mean, if you're a black person and you do well at school, other black people might not be kind towards you. This makes it harder for black people to actually try and achieve on an intellectual level. Are they impossible in doing this? No, they're not. There are plenty of black people that have achieved. Well, but maybe they are less smart than white people on average. Yeah, maybe, but then look at the averages within the white population of America. I mean, you've got a wide range within there as well. The lowest aren't all blacks or all whites, but if we're going to go and measure averages, the average of a 13% group is always going to be different than the average of a 70% group. And, in all fairness, a lot of IQ tests are cultural based. Even a black American and a white American do not live in the same predominant culture. This is a problem, by the way, don't get me wrong. But the problem is not black people are stupid. The problem is we have issues trying to make the world equal. No, not equal, I hate that word. Make the world fair and balanced towards each other. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should create equality of outcome. That's just as much bullshit. But we do need to find a way to recognize what is causing these differences. To merely state these differences are there, therefore blah blah blah. No, we know these differences are there. What is the cause of these differences? Because we also know that, for example, Nigerians, 50% of them in America have an education of bachelor or higher. There is no other group in America that is so well educated. Not even Asians. And they have definitely a culture of achieving academically. But Nigerians apparently also have this culture. Therefore, culture is of a bigger import than ethnicity. Now, white people also have the achievement value based within it. I mean, merit system is obviously white, apparently, which is also bullshit because you will find merit systems in every aspect of the world. But yeah, with white people, we also consider merit to be important, but we do not always find academia important. I mean, the average farmer might feel that knowledge about farming is far more interesting than academic knowledge about anything else. Does his IQ score lower? Well, it depends on the IQ test, but most likely, yes. Is he stupid? Hell no! And this is true for just about everyone. Now, the next bit is kind of funny too, because fact 4, these black-white differences have been demonstrated repeatedly by every test ever conducted by every branch of the US military, every state, every county, and local school board, etc., etc., etc. Now, that's a nice assumption, but it's not true. If it were true, then explain to me why Nigerians are the highest educated subgroup in America. I mean, the 300 points bonus to their, SAT score, because America works with SAT, fair enough, that's not the explanation. I mean, if it were the explanation, then we would see that more black people would also be highly educated. So yeah, no, we can't say that that's the case. So this again asserts something. Now, they gave a small list of where they think you can find the information. Now, they aren't really links. They're at the bottom of the post I referenced to. They're not really links, unfortunately, and I looked at one and it gave me the information on how to buy a book at Amazon, so that's useless. But there is a double standard in this, because it's assuming these black and white differences have been demonstrated repeatedly by every test, but it's not true. As I said, Nigerians score very high in education. More than 50% of them are bachelor or higher. With an average IQ of 85, only 60% of the blacks score over 100, while half of the white population does. The Negro overlap with white median IQs range from 10 to 25%. Equality would require 50%. No, because IQ tests are very, very heavily relying on culture. And we know that even though they live in the same country, they have different cultures. Hell, white people have different cultures from each other, and we also see these differences in IQ depending on the culture they live in. So yeah, this is every reference to, well, average IQ scores lacks merit. Yes, we can say that on average they score lower on these IQ tests, but we do not know why they score lower. It's not because they have lower IQ. It's because they might have lower IQ, but that's not proven. Now, unfortunately, because black people get a 300-point bonus to their SAT score, they are more likely to go into educations that are beyond their reach, and therefore they fail at their education, which is the stupidity of giving someone a bonus on their SAT. But if you let black people do the educations that they can and will achieve at, they can and will achieve. This is what we see. But yeah, if you put a black person in Yale because we gave him a 300-point bonus on his SAT score, but a white person who wouldn't have had those 300-point bonus wouldn't even be allowed into jail, wouldn't have had that education, and would not have had failed. But the black person who would have been perfectly fine at any other university was now going to an Ivy League university and couldn't hack it. This is setting up people to fail based on, yeah, but look at how nice we are, we're giving you a bonus. At the same time, it's giving other people, like these, an excuse to say, yeah, but see, they're going to Yale and they're failing because they're not intelligent enough. No. Now, reality is in the middle of this. I mean, should we stop with affirmative action and giving them bonus SAT scores? Hell yes. Yesterday, if possible. Does that mean black people won't achieve anymore? No, because there are black people who achieve. Yeah, but there are more white people that achieve than black people. Yeah, but white people live in a different culture than black people. If you live in a culture where, if you're good at studying, your peers, your neighbors, your friends are looking at you like you're a traitor, like an Oreo, I think the term was, then you're not going to do your best. Why not? Because you want to be part of your community. And if you do your best, your community turns against you. This is a problem. It's culture, but it's a problem. And this is the problem we need to address. Now, I'm going to stop here because I've been ranting for a while now, and the last time I tried to make this video, I tried to make it short, and I was already well past half an hour. So I'm going to stop at let's say point 6, the IQ ones, because I've mentioned everything I wanted to say about IQ. Links will be provided downstairs, both on the European Media Center WordPress article of 2013, 100 facts for differences between human races. I will provide also a link why races is definitely the wrong term. It should be ethnicities. Racist, by the way, is a term coined by communists to basically try and berate everyone who didn't think like them. I get sidetracked again. I shouldn't do that. Links will be provided, as I said. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Criticism is more than welcome. This video is not to say black people are bad, or white people are bad, or black people are good, or white people are good. This is to stop race realism. Funny enough, actually, it could be considered to be a start of race realism. The race being Homo sapiens sapiens, and we have to be real about each other. Your skin color does not make you smart or dumb, your culture does. Anyway, this is it for me. Like, share, subscribe. Criticism is more than welcome, and I hope to see you all next time.